it's about 2 years before you really don't feel the discomfort in your stomach area.
Yeah.
It's very serious.
Well, I haven't had a man since 2014. I mean, since I had I haven't. But is it because I'm afraid to get out here in a relationship? To be so vulnerable in front of somebody or the rejection? You know, I'm struggling with that. You know, what if I'm rejected? You know, what if they don't like me? I don't have breasts. And, you know, and then I struggle with clothes, you know, what to put on. At one point I had my shirt turned backwards because, you know, you didn't want to show the cleavage and the scars. And it's just so much more than chemo. Cancer is just so much more than chemo, radiation, and surgery. And I think part of treatment should be psychological, the mental. You know, we need to talk about getting to the mental part of you losing things. And that's what's important to me. That's my part of the journey that I think that they need to really focus on. Because even the fear alone of reoccurrence is crazy. No matter how many years how many years you've been out of it.
That
That's
goes
right.
back to us talking earlier about does your body or losing part of your body define who you are? You know, how does that change you? You know, I'm going to be honest, I have a whole wardrobe closet full of bras that I have never put on. I spent so much money buying underwear, you know, to try to make myself feel whole again. And I realized that that would never happen, you know. But the whole, I think the pain and the shrinkage of tissue, the lymphedema that you experience behind radiation is so devastating that you want to try to do something to make yourself feel pretty, to you know, if you were enticed into a relationship, that, you know, oh, that was, you do everything to overlook, you know, this flaw. And irrespective of the fact that you have tried your darndest to get mentally past the fact that, you know, there's something missing. You know, it takes a whole lot of women to say, hey, this is who I am right now, you know. And I finally started shoving that underwear that I was buying into that wardrobe and drawer and closed those doors around it because, but it took me a while. It took me, you know, thousands of dollars, you know, to come to the fact that, you know, this is not the answer. The answer is within. The answer also comes from my faith, you know, that I am going to be able to survive this. And even if I have a reoccurrence or whatever, I'm going to be able to face it at that time, being the best person I can with the best guidance that I have, you know, from above.
Ladies, we're going to start closing down, but there is one more thing that Elaine wants to ask. Elaine.
Freddie, we know your mantra. Okay. You might have cancer, but cancer does not have you. And Juliet, I know your story. Share with us how you keep uplifted and then I would like for the other ladies to give theirs as well.
I would say that with my journey, I shared a little bit about my story before with Ida, and that was that being adopted, losing my children, losing my place and everything, I still just always knew that I was blessed. I walked around sick as a dog for a long time, and I knew something was seriously wrong with me, and I kept going. It's my faith that makes me stand still and stand strong and know that I'm not in this by myself. I have sisters and aunts and people who I don't even know who are facing the same journey. I look at children who have done absolutely nothing and just be born with a disease. And I say to myself, at the end of the day, what do I want my life to mean if all of this ends? And I have to say that the strongest thing for me to do is be there for other people, to speak to other people, to lend a hand to other people, to come to people's rescue. When you're in that mindset like, I'm gonna die, or is this gonna kill me, or is this gonna come back, or what have you, I'm the person who says, no, we got this. We're gonna fight this, no matter what, tooth and nail. And I stand on the promises of God that He works miracles. He is a God of miracles. He's a God of deliverance. You understand? And no matter what you walk through, your faith has to stand strong in who He is and whose you are. You understand? I'm about my Father's business.
Yeah.
And when I say cancer doesn't have to be ugly, I mean that thing. Yeah, so
Yes,
it doesn't.
I agree with you. I know I've looked at it. It made me take a good look at myself. Being a 2-time cancer survivor and a lung cancer survivor. 2016 is when I was diagnosed with lung cancer. So I'm still on the journey with that.
Were you a smoker?
For a short period of time when I was young. When I was young, I was. I don't know whether that had anything to do with it. As interesting as it is, my husband prior to that was diagnosed with cancer, with lung cancer, 2007. And it made me think we worked for the same organization, living in the same house. So, you don't know whether it's the air that you breathe as well, whether that, we lived in the same areas. I don't know. But it's also made me realize that it's important for me to minister to other women, to help them. Some women don't even have the doctors that we've been blessed to have. We were listening to all of us. We had good health care. We had good doctors that cared about us. There are a lot of women that don't have that. And I was blessed to be able to help some of those women and take them to some good doctors to get them on the right track. And this is what the Lord has put me here for, to do and to talk to people. Sometimes you don't even realize, sometimes you can be on the train or standing next to someone and you see them with a certain look on your face and you start a little conversation, and out of that you hear about their journey with cancer or how they're lost because of not having proper medical or not being misdiagnosed. And sometimes you can just lend a hand and take them to a decent doctor to be able to talk to them and give them some information. And that has brought me a lot of comfort. I find that being able to spend quality time with the people I love and really quality time doing things with my granddaughter, with my great-grandkids, I want them to remember me. And remember me in a positive way. Don't remember me as a cancer survivor. Remember all the fun and the different things and the guidance that I gave them, you know. And I know the Lord will see me through. No matter what it is or where it is, He tells me to live each and every day. You know, you open up your eyes and you say, oh, the legs are working and the hands working. You're feeling pretty good. Jump up, girl. Get on up. Get up, and do. Because there are days that we don't feel that. I mean, let's not fool anybody. There are days we lay there and we're not feeling good. And you know what? Those days are okay to lay there and take care of you and rest. And that's been what I've realized. And it's come in front of me to realize these are the things. It's not things. It's the people that you touch that are important while you're here.
That is your legacy.
That's my
That is your
legacy.
legacy.
I've been inspired to get out more and talk about my story. I promise God that if you save me, I'm going to preach the gospel, and I'm not going to just talk about all the things I've done. I'm going to talk about how you healed me and how you are real, and how if you took care of me and keep me looking glammed and everything else, that you could do it for the person that's sitting next to me who was broken inside. Because all of this is just, you know, this is makeup and hair, but inside is really the true person. And so I have learned to listen, you know, and be a true sister friend, not just someone who yells it out. I'm gonna pray for you. I actually write your name down and ask what is going on with you, as much information as I can get, and I actually say a prayer for you. Not just, oh, I'm gonna pray for you, sister. You know, no, I'm gonna really pray because somebody was praying for me, and someone. I believe that God listened, and He is continuously watching me, and I need to fulfill my promise, and that is to share, be a part of wonderful women as yourself, and continue to educate more so than anything, and whatever resources that I can provide and give, I want to be able to give that and share that. People see me as a black woman, look at me as a brown woman, and say, wow, she has it, and this is what she looks like. What am I going to look like when I'm going through it? I have pictures to show you. I didn't look like this every day. I have, you know, and my intimacy and things that I've dealt with. I mean, the stories, we could be here for hours, right? Because we talked about the intimacy and we talked about our significant others. There's so much that goes with that. And it's good to have women and partnerships and friends and people that we can share our stories with, so that you know you're not alone in this. And everybody's story is powerful. And so sharing is, I think, the biggest part of all of this, not holding it in and telling those deep, intimate things that people think that you haven't gone through. I haven't, this is my 3rd year of being cancer-free of sarcoma cancer. For 1 year, I did not walk. I had a walker. You know, I had a cane after that. I mean, so some people met me when I only had a walker. And they were like, oh my God, you're walking now. I'm like, I've always walked, you know. So, but you know, people see you in different phases. So, you know, I meet people now, and so I listen more, and I'm here to help.
Well, as we get ready to close down, I just wanted to say to you, you have inspired me. And I look at my friends over here as we've listened and heard you tell your story. And one of the things that came to my mind was that the promise that God made to you. And that was, He promised never to leave you nor forsake you. And that He would be with you always, even until the end. In the meantime, everything that you have gone through is for a reason. And if that reason is no more than to prove that when you get cancer, you can still have a great life. Miss Daphne over here just goes up and down the road across the country. No matter what happens, she has a smile on her face. Miss Freddie never stops working, never stops giving. And it reminds me of something that one of our ministers used to say, and that was, there are 3 questions that you should ponder all the time. Who are you? And you ask that question, who am I? And then when you can answer that you are God's child, that's the evolution of maturity. The second question is, what is my purpose? Maybe you are to have gone through this just to prove that God still works miracles in your life. And although you have gone through so much, there is a lesson in there that you're going to teach to someone else. And finally, what is your relationship to your fellow woman or man? What is your relationship? And I think today is the beginning of you sharing what your relationship is to your fellow woman, man, and God. Because men can get cancer too. Men can have breast cancer as well. So if you can inspire them, if you can motivate them to be conscious of that, and if you can educate them by having them to know that they can get it, they can study up on it, they can be aware, they can start a conversation, they can help somebody else, then maybe that's your purpose. I want to thank all of you for coming. Anybody else got any questions, final pressing questions? Well, then we can cut this off and get some water. Ladies, you were phenomenal.
Yes.
When you want to speak.
See what's that.
We're going to exhale.
Yeah.
2, 3. No, that's what I want.
It's okay. It's okay.
The bonding.
Exhale. And let it out.
That's right.
Just whatever you guys want to say. Just keep going.
Thank you, God. Just thank you, Lord. We come to you and say thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for blessing us. Thank you for bringing us together, God. We know that all things are possible through you.
Father God, you said we shall live and not die. And we stand today, Father God, in unity and gratefulness, Father God. Father God, we just thank you for being who you are. You are the King of all kings, the beginning and the end. Father God, right now I ask you to bless everyone that's in this room, Father God. Father God, if they have anything on their hearts, on their minds, anything that they need, Father God, I ask that you just deliver it to them, Father God, if it's in your will. Father God, just give us traveling mercies back to our homes. Father God, give us healing where healing is needed. Father God, I just ask you to just continue to bless us with life, continue to bless us with our journeys, with our will to do your will, Father God, to get out here and struggle and stand every day on behalf of black women with cancer, Father God. Giving them a voice every day. Teaching them, educating them, Father God, and just being willing to just go into trenches, Father God, and keep it moving. I just thank you right now, God. You are so good.
It is with your light that we are here together. We had no idea that our path would bring us to this place. But in here, we are all one. We are here to do your work. We will continue to fight for ourselves and our people. And for those that are coming along this same journey, we are here to share with them ours so that there is more knowledge, so that there is more love, there's more caring, so that there's more healing, so there's more rest, and there's more restoration to come.
Yeah, God.
Father God, I just come to you humbly bound, Lord God, humble in spirit, Lord God. Just thanking you for the fullness of who you are.
Yeah.
Father God, you delivered me yesterday from some violent vomiting and throwing up and nausea to the point where I couldn't move almost the whole day, Lord God.
Yeah.
And here I am. You've done it again and allowed me to open my eyes.
Thank you, Lord.
Lord God, you allowed me to get out of bed and take up my bed and walk this morning and go to church, Lord God.
Thank
That
you,
was the
Jesus.
first thing in my mind because you have blessed me to be so strong this morning that I wanted to honor you, Lord God.
Yeah, God.
Honor you in my walking today, Lord God, because only you provided that today, Lord
Yeah,
God.
God.
When I struggled so bad yesterday, Lord God, I bless your name. I thank you for all of the fullness that you have given me, Lord God, and you have supplied my spirit, Lord God. I ask that you come into these women's lives, Lord God, breast cancer or not, God, and put the fullness of your spirit and the fullness of your grace and mercy inside of their bellies, Lord God, that we go out of here and we are on fire for you. Lord God, whether it be cancer or whether it just be someone sitting on a bench, Lord God, let us minister to the meek and humble in spirit, Lord God. Let them know that you are real, Lord God. Let them know that you are still here and you are fervent in love, Lord God. Lord God, spread the news. We want to spread the news and make disciples of all nations, Lord God. We want to stand in fervent prayer, Lord God, with one another. Let this be a bond that we continue, Lord God, and that we start to spread amongst the world, Lord God. I want to uplift Ida Gardner, Lord God, for her vision, Lord God, for her spirit, Lord God, for her humbleness and her obedience to you, Lord God. I ask that you just bless her and uplift whatever it is that she puts her hand on, Lord God, because this is the beginning of a new. This is the beginning of a movement for African American women in the DMV area to touch and make such a noise that you hear us, even if it's from our graves, Lord God. Lord God, I thank you for everything today, Lord God. And I ask that you bless us in your holy name, Lord God. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Do you want to close out with a song?
That is too funny. Oh my God. I tell her all the time, it's kind of, I haven't sought publicly out.
Ladies, this is the DMV Intergenerational Theater Cancer Initiative. We're excited about having you here to help share and tell your story. Your journey will inspire, will motivate people, and educate them. I want you to know that your story is important. And as long as we are sharing with each other, that's another way to start the conversation. So you're on a mission. How about that, Miss Freddie?
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I'd like to start off with asking everyone to just visit for a moment. What was your first memory or your first response and initial feeling about learning that you had breast cancer?
I'm Daphne, and I am a 2-time breast cancer survivor and 1 lung cancer. And the first time I was told that I had breast cancer, 1993, early part, I was numb. I didn't feel like I was in my body. I had to hear it 2 or 3 times. I had to go back to the doctor a couple of times because all I heard was breast cancer, and I couldn't relate it to me, so I was numb.
Juliet, what was your experience when you first heard that you had cancer in your body?
I'm Juliet, and I am surviving 4 cancers, 3 blood cancers, and metastatic breast cancer. The first time my doctor told me, it was just like the others can share. It was a numbing experience. It was, you stop dead in your tracks and you're like, say it again, because I don't think I heard you. I don't understand what's going on. This is not true. This is not me. And then the shock starts to come in, and you're trying to deal with it, trying to figure out who to tell, what to say, and how to repeat it, because acceptance was a part of it.
How about you, Ms. LaShawn?
The doctor came in the room and was like, "I'm so sorry," and I'm thinking, "You're sorry about what? You're not giving me a chance off the top, he was like, you have triple negative breast cancer, and triple negative breast cancer is the poorest prognosis you can get when it comes to breast cancer. When it reoccurs, well, they already say it's going to reoccur, and when it does reoccur in your body, it usually comes in one of your major organs. And so I didn't know anything about breast cancer. So when they told me I was triple negative, I actually thought it was a good thing because everything was negative, but it was actually not a good thing. And so the treatment for triple negative breast cancer, chemotherapy may work, but it may not work. And so, you kind of just, your faith has to be on 100 at that point. And so dealing with breast cancer, that announcement and dealing with the triple negative diagnosis, I think I was, like she said, numb to it.
Is that the same as metastatic breast cancer?
It is not the same as metastatic breast cancer.
Okay.
The American Cancer Society gives us a lot of statistics, and one of them in particular about triple negative breast cancer cells, they don't produce, you don't have estrogen or progesterone receptors, and so you make too much protein.
Mm-hmm.
So that's called the HER2. Isn't that correct? Right. So it says these cancers tend to be more common in younger women and in women who are of African American and Hispanic Latino descent. Triple negative breast cancers grow and spread faster than most any other type of cancer. So we are pretty prone to it. And a lot of the research I'm understanding is based on those that happen to feel comfortable enough to go in and talk with their physicians and what have you, which a lot of people of our culture do not want to share, that there's something that they're experiencing. They kind of act as though it's not happening. And therefore, the diagnosis doesn't come until much later. And with this especially happening, the triple negative, we find that our diagnoses are late, and it has metastasized and gone throughout our bodies, unfortunately.
And with that, I was just going to kind of interject with that, I was just going to try to interject and just say that LaShawn is definitely right. It's a difference between having the triple negative breast cancer and the metastasis that happens. Metastasis is when it actually spreads to major organs in your body, and there isn't a lot of treatment alternatives that they can do to actually put you into remission. That is not an option for a patient such as myself. You just take chemo and you, again, have faith and pray that, things are working for you and in your favor, so.
Has your doctor asked you to do any genetic testing? Are you participating in genetic testing?
I have been asked to do some genetic testing, but I think that the prognosis doesn't change regardless of the genetics. You get what I mean? So I'm so not interested in it at this point. It's like, the more you tell me, it's like, okay, great. But, unless we have some kind of, answers that are giving me solidarity where I can say this is going to help another patient, say with treatment, then to me, the genetics is like, it's just my makeup. It's just my build and what God gave me, and as opposed to someone else. But I'm more interested in the science part of it, of what we're doing about it. I took, for instance, once I got out of bed and finished all of my treatment for the blood cancers, I ran to every conference, every class, any physician that was holding anything. I was there, and I took notes on the cancers that I had so that I could be more informed
about what was going on and how they were treating. And different doctors, share their stories of how they treat patients and why they treat patients a certain way. My doctor chose a different route. There was another doctor who chose to keep people on chemo, on a low dose chemo, so it would just keep the cancer away. My doctor chose to take me off of it because the chemo is all of the side effects that it comes with. So it's just at the discretion of the healthcare provider what they want to give to you and stuff like that. So I wanted to know and educate myself on how this could have happened, how it works, what I can do. I mean, of course, everybody, we all think we can eat a tomato or eat some kale and and heal ourselves. That's the biggest joke, that everybody thinks we can eat ourselves, healthy like in it. And I don't know if you guys, but I became so offensive. And I was like, if one more person tells me to eat this or that, or take the Dr. Sebi pills and do this, it was one of those things that I was like, please, I didn't do this to myself, because I was a healthy eater before this. And I know vegans who also got sick, doctors who got sick with breast cancer and stuff like that. So the misconception is that we ate wrong,
But remove yourself from that and think about this when you do the genetic testing. It doesn't always help us, but it might help your daughter, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. That's why I participate. What so happens, my oncologist, she encourages me every few years to go and get tested again because they have to find with people of certain backgrounds, minority people, Asian people, all of us. We're a little reluctant in participating in these studies. And because of that, they don't have enough information. Now with Eastern Europeans and Western Europeans, they know because they participated and they got that blood drawn and they had those tests done. We are very reluctant to do that. That's why they don't have the data on us. We can't change what happened to us, but my God, we can change what will happen with the generations that will come behind us. If they know that this is the marker that triggers that, and this type of person, they can test and find out, yes, that child's going to have so-and-so. We can do X, Y, and Z to correct it now. We can do whether we start out by giving them certain types of pills, medication, go ahead and do the surgeries. There's so many other choices that they have to treat before you actually get the disease. That's the only good part about participating in those studies.
Well, I actually did go through the genetic testing, and they didn't know why I got breast cancer. I was the first person in my family to ever get breast cancer, and so when I went to get the results of the genetic testing, that's what they told me. They were like, "We don't know why you got breast cancer." And then you walk out like, I took this time to take this test, looking for answers, and you come in there and you're like, we have no idea why you got breast cancer.
Because not enough people participate.
Now, I'm like, well, if they don't know how I got breast cancer, what's going to stop me from getting it again? That's always a thing, because I'm like, am I eating right? I mean, I bumped my knee, I got a bruise, oh my God, what's this? Is this breast cancer? Is this cancer? Everything is just like, because they don't know. And so everything with the genetic testing, it can help, but
Just
it didn't help me.
It won't help
agree.
us, but it's going to help the generations after us.
I will interject and just say, this is a really good piece of information, and I want to put a question out here on a fellow survivors. Infertility is one of the biggest things that we face when we're dealing with having cancer. So I'm adopted. I don't know my parents. I don't know anyone. I was unfortunately not able to have children because I had cancer and did not know it all that time. I had 2 children and was not able to carry them to full term. Almost, but not full term. And so I don't have that to pass on to any children of mine. However, again, it could be of an additional help, but I would put the question out there on the floor to say to the other survivors, how did you feel about the infertility portion of it? Did you go through the freezing of eggs, Did you feel it necessary to do that stuff? And you know, I've heard so many stories of people doing it, and if you did freeze your eggs, you know, it may be a cancerous future for the child. So it's a lot to deal with when you have this diagnosis. It doesn't just stop there. You know, even the questions of a will, you know, and you never even thought about it. So did anybody go through those difficulties for infertility or?
When I was 45, and it was kind of like the opposite. So, I mean, the total opposite. They were like, "This is going to push you into menopause."
Yeah.
And I thought that was the one great thing.
I think it's safe to say this is the menopause.
Well, I feel welcome.
I thought that was just great. That was one of the best things they told me.
Except when they hit you like that.
I was like, this is wonderful, you know. Until I started the hot flash.
And they come on just like that. They don't come on gradual like they do.
So my name is Alicia. I am a sarcoma cancer survivor. My story is probably a little unique, but I did find my own lump. To go back to the original question that was asked, I wear lots of different clothes, jeans. I like to go to the beach, and I like to get bikini waxes done. I found my lump on my bikini line, thought it was a hair bump, and long and behold, it was an actual tumor. Ended up going to my gynecologist, and not taking any risks. My gynecologist was, we could probably lance it, but we can't do it in the office. Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead on and take you to a surgical center because it's safe there just in case something may happen. Well, that something just in case did happen. They found a tumor the size of a golf ball underneath the skin of my pelvic area. Completely devastating, and to wait, several weeks because I had a pathology, I had to wait for, the results to come back. And I am a thriver, probably like many of you all. I have several different jobs, companies, and things that I was doing on a daily basis. So to learn that my whole life came to a stop through the diagnosis was heartfelt. And yes, it pushed me into probably menopause state, but so many other things occurred with that as well. Mm-hmm. So like you all, I share my story of checking the entire body for a lump. I was grateful that I was a stage 2 survivor, that I was able to identify something was different about my body and something needed to be checked on immediately. And I was happy and grateful that I was able to have a good team of doctors who were quick to identify that it was sarcoma cancer, which is the tissue, bone, and muscle part of a cancer. And I had what was considered the soft tissue cancer of the pelvic area.
It's funny that you say your life came to a halt, because even though I was numb after the diagnosis, I thought I better live it up. So, if this is my diagnosis, I better live it up. Yeah. And I did. And the whole journey, I was so busy trying to be normal and be the old Sean that I forgot to mourn, my situation and my diagnosis. And I was taking care of everybody. And I was doing everything that I normally do. I was clubbing. I was doing, just trying to live fast, because I was like, oh my God, if this is it, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep moving. Mm-hmm. So when you say it stopped, I had the whole opposite. It had the whole opposite effect to me until after the journey, after the chemo, after the surgery. Yes. And then I was alone. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go through it then. My journey was really rough then.
And I was one of those individuals who had multi sources of income, revenue, working several different jobs, running up and down the beltway, as they would call it. And I was stopped in my tracks. One of my biggest funniest stories, I would say, is Black Friday. I was a Black Friday shopper. And you could not tell me, Black Friday, I was getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, first one in line, had my cart. Me and my son had a strategy, and we would, zip and run through the stores. And I had a fetish for shoes. And so what I did on one of the Fridays, it was November of 2015. I bought all these shoes on sale, half price. But however, I said, these are all the shoes I'm gonna wear for the summer of 2016. The whole summer of 2016, not only did I not wear one shoe, I couldn't even walk because my type of cancer enabled me to actually get out of the bed. I had 2 different surgeries. I had 3 months of radiation treatment, and I was a complete bed bound. I went from moving and shaking and driving and meeting people to not being able. I had shoes in my closet with tags on them that I couldn't even walk in.
Wow.
So your life changes.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we are here today, and we are grateful that God has pulled us through this. But there is so much that changes your life, and getting educated around cancer and how it affects each and every one of us is so important, to learn more about how cancer affects us and what we can do to be more aware of it and raise the awareness around it.
I think one of the most important things that Sean said was that once she slowed down, she was alone, and that was hard. One thing, if caregivers or people who are taking care of another person that has cancer has to understand, after chemo, it almost seems like that's when the toughest battles, the hardest journeys start.
It was the hardest for me.
It was the hardest for me
It was
too.
the hardest for me.
Because your mind has to be one strong thing day after day after day. Even if you're in remission, partial remission, you are praying, because every little lump, bump, bruise, not feeling well that day can make you so afraid that you have another cancer diagnosis coming from somewhere, or cancer has developed, or cancer has spread. And the one thing that people don't discuss is that chemo can cause other cancers to develop and spread in the body. So it's so many things and elements that come at us. And like I was telling her, I used to be so jealous of the people who got to have radiation. Radiation is only given to people who have cancer in one portion of their body. However, I was like, well, why? I need radiation. And my doctor was like, you can't have it, sweetheart. Like, no, and I'm like, well, that's so unfair, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, and then I start to see the 3rd-degree burns that everybody went through, and all of the turmoil that radiation comes with. And it was like, okay, they have their own journey. I'm thinking that they had, one leg up on me, and I'm like, no,
There's no leg up.
No, not at all. But you think in your head that that's what's happening. But I can tell you that my life, I was a computer tech, and I was a go person, and never slowing down. I have an album out. I just released my album before I got diagnosed, got sick, and went down. I had 14 weddings and events to sing at, and I had to give them all to friends, and they were so gracious and gave me some money from the shows that they did for me, and it was just so sweet. But it was one of those things where I had to give up everything. I had to move back home with my parents because of the type of chemo that I had to have. As Alicia was saying, I couldn't walk for about maybe 7 to 9 days, and then I start to rebuild my strength. I had chemo every other week for that because it was such a tough chemo. But I know the feeling of laying there and you always being a go-getter or somebody. And I was just telling a friend, I was like, you don't know what it feels like to lose.
That's right. That's right.
Lose yourself.
Yeah. But you're here today, though.
Yes.
You're here today.
And I'm still fighting every day. And I'm so thankful. I don't know for how long, but I'm here and I'm grateful. And you have to be grateful every single day for every single moment, because you just don't know. And you have to really mentally face that every day. And my friends, I'm still breaking the news of the new cancer to my friends. There's still people like, what's going on? Why are you back in the chemo? When do you get to get off? And I have to tell them, I can't stop. It won't stop this time, and I'm sorry. It's just me and God right now, you know what I mean? So it is a heavy, heavy thing. And if anything from this, I hope that we are educating people to know to don't stop, hounding your doctor, because I felt bad for years and they kept ignoring me. I had a huge tumor. We didn't know it was huge. It was under my arm, which led all the way down into my rib cage. Mm-hmm. And so that was just the beginning of the blood cancers. And so, it's just, you just never know. It's like a stray bullet. This has no name on it, and it can affect anyone. That's true. So if we can teach and educate and make people understand how important it is to fight for yourself and your health, then that's what I'm here to do,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
understand.
has been your experience initially talking to family, friends, even talking with your doctor about your diagnosis? For me, I withheld information for a while. I just needed to feel it and see what and who I should share that kind of information with. Is anybody joining me with the notion that you felt as though people would look at you differently?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
It was very hard. I was teaching classes. I too was very busy with a lot of different jobs, if you will. And it was hard because I knew that I was about to lose all my hair. I was going to look green around the gills, as I call it. And I just I did not know how to present that well. And so I kept quiet for a very long time, and did not tell everybody, and didn't want anybody to discuss the fact that I was about to go through cancer treatment, and didn't know what was going to happen, particularly because I had a son, 9, almost 10 years old. And how was I going to make it through this devastation in life, in my life, and be able to be effectively mother, if you will, and nurturer for my son at the same time, in a vulnerable age I thought he was at. And my decision was to do everything possible to try and feel and look and appear normal. So, I just decided that I would go. I had long hair at that time, and I went to my salonist and said, cut it off. And he thought cut it off meant cut it short. And I said, no, get your razor out. And I said, because I don't want to see and I don't want to feel what it's like to go through this, if you would, metamorphosis, and downward spiral. So I was like, I have to change the image immediately so that I could appear like I just took on a new style.
You didn't want cancer to control you. You wanted to control it.
That's
I
my
know
point.
that one. I did.
That is my
That
statement.
was
I always say, I've even told Ida that. I think when she realized that something was going on with me, I told her, I said, you know what? I have cancer, but cancer doesn't have me.
That's a good one.
You're not going to let that hair fall out. You would take it off.
I
That's
took
how
it
I
off.
felt too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was total opposite about the hair. I hated the hair part. I was different, I would say. My case was different. My body was different. I was stronger than normal. The kind of chemo that I got should have kind of destroyed me way more than it did.
You must have had the red devil.
Yeah.
I had the red devil.
I had that
The red devil.
and about 8 other bags.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a lot, and for me, I laid in bed and I was just like Freddie, and I said I needed to take this by the horns. And I was like, as a computer tech, I showed up and I was like the only African American girl amongst all males in the team, and I would have my heels on in the server rooms, in the CEO's office, and I said, you know what, cancer doesn't have to be ugly either.
Yeah.
And I dressed up every time I went to chemo, so they looked forward to me coming in there. They still do. And they are saying, what is Miss Copeland going to put on, today? What is she going to come in here with? So I made it and turned it into what I needed it to be. And my friend, he was like, why do you have on heels? You need to be comfortable. I was like, you can't take that away from me. I'm going to continue to always be myself, And so I have the slogan, cancer doesn't have to be ugly. Yeah.
I like that.
Well, that is probably one of the most important ways to accept a journey that is going to be very difficult. And when I saw Freddie coming to the school to talk to me about her son, Jordan, I saw her as a warrior princess. And from a distance, I always admired her. She had on her high heels. She had on her business suit with her briefcase. And she was looking the part. And when I saw her, I did not feel sorry for her. I knew that she was going to make it. And see, that's another way that she inspired me. So if I ever had to go through that, I would have the image of a Freddie Prevost in my mind, that I will stand tall and believe that through God all things are possible. I hear that in Juliet's voice, and I believe that harnessing that kind of energy so that we can project that message can help a whole lot of people who may have family members going through. And how you talk about it and how you think about it is important. And that's a message that's worth putting out there.
It is. In my case, when I was diagnosed, it was a wake-up call for me. I had been sitting there in pity for about a year. I had lost my son, and I thought I could just sit down in a chair and just die. I had no will to live, to be honest with you. They asked me, are you suicidal? No. I felt I could just sit and just go. And lo and behold, I had my mammogram as usual. Then I found a lump under my arm. And when they told me what I had, after I went through the numbness and all that process, I looked up and I said, Lord, I know I told you I wanted to die, but this is not how I want to go. Not by cancer. I hear you talking to me, Lord. I said, so the answer is no. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. And that's when I realized I'm going to change things. I'm going to be very selfish. I need to have all the strength I need. I'm not going to tell people that are going to have a pity party for me. That won't help me. So I did not tell my mom because it would just devastate her or my aunt. I was particular on who I told. My husband knew, my sisters knew, and my brother knew. And my brother said to me, he says, now you have to take care, because we don't want to lose you. You have to promise me. And that's when I said, I'm not talking to him anymore. I don't want to hear. It's not about you. And then my husband came home rooting me on, and he says, Daphne, he says, a coworker, his wife has cancer. And let me tell you, she gets up every day, she goes into work, and she comes home, she wears this wig, and she takes that wig off, she fixes dinner for the two of them, and she crawls into the bed, and she gets up the next day and she does the same thing. And on the weekends when she's feeling strong enough, that's when she cooks and freezes it, and she gets back out there. And I looked at him and I went, And I said to myself, that is not me. You can forget that. I'm going to be selfish for once in my life, and I'm going to take care of Daphne. And part of taking care of me, I said, I'm not going to work. I don't want to deal with the people. I have long-term disability insurance. I have health insurance. I'm going to stay home and pamper me. I'm going to rest when I need to rest. I'm going to do my fruit, my juices. I'm just going to pamper me. And it made me realize life has to be lived. You have to share the people that you love. You get to stop and let them know. Your friends, your family, and embrace them and love them. And I thank God for making me see that. He gave me a lesson. It was a tough lesson. But that's how I approached it, and I pampered me. You know.
So the first thing I did was I repent. I asked God for forgiveness in every single corner that I could think of, whether I didn't hold the door for somebody or I cut somebody off on the road. I was beating myself up as to what did I do, or somebody saying, yeah, she finally got something wrong with her, because I was always working and looking like the poster child of getting everything right, and always supporting others. If someone else had cancer, someone passed away, I was the one giving and going, and I would privately help and support individuals. And so for me, I took a little different approach. No one knew much about sarcoma cancer, and neither did I. And getting a lump, the first thing when someone said, you had a lump, oh, my lump was, I had a lump on my breast, or it was, how is your breast cancer? And so I had to educate individuals, but I had to educate myself. So for me, it was very devastating. I have to be honest with you. It was very, very devastating. I went into a complete shock. I went into a complete why me, the person who does for everybody. Like, why this happened to me?
Yes.
It is still difficult to talk about the initial response, and I think that people saw a side of me that they were not used to seeing. Even now, I consider myself a crybaby so much now. But who was going to be strong for me was what I was looking at. And I was alone a lot. I had a great team of people, good friends and family that did come to my side. But I really felt alone when it was time to go for my treatment and sit and talk with those doctors. A lot of the information I was always contradicting what the doctor was saying. I asked a lot of questions. And I encourage individuals to ask a lot of questions, because I felt like I was getting on their nerves, but I was like, are you not telling me something? What is the stage 2? What does that mean? Does that mean I don't have to go through treatment? Is it lessen the dosage that you get? The answer was no, of course. But for me, it was really trying to get educated of how I can live with my cancer for whatever time frame I had on this world and this earth.
Ladies, can I ask you to just think about the moment that you accepted the fact that you had cancer and the doctor came to you with the plan? Were you comfortable with his explanation for your plan and how things were going to work out?
I really didn't have a problem talking with my doctor. In fact, I kind of encouraged them to talk to me, just as bold as they possibly could, because I just wanted that, I needed to have that. I didn't want anybody to tap dance around the issue, which I found was happening initially. And nobody had ever said the word cancer to me, in fact. And I was in the doctor's office again after having a friend of mine who was in one of my classes, who was also a nurse, call me and says, well, the doctor wants you to come in and visit again. I said, tell me straightforward, I know this, I have a lump. Is it cancerous, And she said, well, I can't talk to you about that. But, so of course I knew what it was. So I walked in the office and I said, listen, will you stop tap dancing around this? I know I have cancer. Will somebody please show me the x-rays? And there was just a big pause in the room for a minute, because nobody believed that I was going to be that straightforward. But that's what I needed to have said and start that conversation so that it was very real from there. And everybody took a big sigh, and it was on from there. And I felt comfortable in creating the team that was going to work with me with the cancer surgery as well as afterwards, including, my plastic surgeon. So it was sort of, and I don't think everybody gets that experience because they're not feeling as comfortable as they're letting the team or the doctor lead them, into information. But I encourage everybody to find out as much as you possibly can. Do your own research. And the thing is, we do have to participate in everything that's out here, include our questions, so that more queries will happen and research goes deeper and more in depth, because we as a culture are probably the one we are not getting enough research that's directed to us based on the fact of, we're not talking a whole lot.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we're not participating. We're afraid. We have fear. And some of that fear has come from generations way before us.
Historically.
Correct. But we're going to have to stop and say, no, we have to participate. We're going to put that fear aside and participate, because from what my oncologist has explained to me, every few years they're coming up with more and more markers that they're knowing about, but they need to have more people participate to identify, to say, this group, this is very common in this group. And this will help the people that will come after us.
generations.
Those next generations,
If you look at some of the information that, like, the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Association are putting out about women and cancers as well as breast cancers, there seems to be some lineage that connects us to West Africa. That it's like a regional where others from other locations on that continent are not directly affected. And because of migration, because of our coming to this land, we seem to somehow or another find ourselves in places like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the DC area, Maryland, sort of an East Coast thing here on our continent. And these are things that they should be trying to look at, I think, very closely as they continue research to see, what this pattern is, because it started in the 16th century, the 17th century, and here we are, 21st century, and, though we are, I think, the least diagnosed with breast cancer, we have the highest mortality rate from cancer.
And as far as acceptance goes, piggying back on what she asked, for me, I was sort of like Freddie, take the bull by his horns. I was like, list to me everything I need to know, okay? And then I started reading up on things myself, and so I would question my doctor, and she was like, well, how do you know that? Like, I went to specialist after I finished my chemo because I still felt bad. Took chemo for about 6 months, and I ended in January this year. And I said, Doc, I feel really bad. And the thing about getting the first 3 diagnoses from the blood cancer was okay for me because I had a set date. I was going to do this chemo. It was going to be over. I was going to fight through, and that was it. And I was like, let's go, And that was my mindset each and every time I got it. There were a few tears, but not a lot, because I knew I had my eyes on that date and on the prize, and I was like, I'm going to be in remission. And, you hear all the time, be positive, think positive, and you got to always, keep in control of your mind and these antidotes that we have to utilize to keep us up, and upright and thinking the right things. So I will say, once I finished treatment, I said, Doc, something's wrong, because I felt better, even though it was like tearing me down. I felt better on the chemo than I do now, and I'm off. And she was saying,
well, I'm looking at your numbers. She was like, yes, you still have cancer, but nothing is growing out of whack. I don't see anything. I don't see anything. And I'm like, Doc, there are days I cannot stand up. I'm holding on and I'm shaking for dear life. And that's not normal. I said, I feel like I did before you started treating me. And from January until May, we found nothing. And May is when I went for another scan, which we get, I don't know if everybody gets scans every 3 months or so, but we get scans every 3 months. So in May, that's when the small spot on my liver showed up. And I had to have a liver biopsy, which was the most painful thing I have ever experienced in my life. But they went in and did the liver biopsy, and by the time I had gotten home and they got the results, they scanned me and did another scan of my entire body from head to toe. The spot had doubled in size just that fast. Wow. Then there was a tumor that is here above my clavicle bone going into my neck. And I had to have another biopsy to make sure that it was reading what it was reading. She didn't want to tell me, but she was like, I have a diagnosis, but I'm just not sure this is what I'm reading. So I need to do another biopsy. So we did the biopsy of the neck. And so she came back and she called me, and she was just flabbergasted and upset herself. And she said, Miss Copeland, I don't know how, but you have a fourth cancer, and it's breast cancer. And it's metastasizing your liver, and it is active and very active and rapidly growing. You have cancer on the side of your body where cancer was not. So, and it's everywhere, and I can't do anything but treat you. And you asked about the acceptance. I'm still walking through that every day. Because the diagnosis is still new for me. They finalized it in June, but I'm still mentally trying to understand it. And when I talk to her and she's saying, well, we just have to treat you until, and it's nothing more we can do. That's a hard part of the acceptance for me every day. Like, I'm still trying to live and have a life and still try to fight for who I am and stand on my own 2 feet, and also believe that I can fight this and beat this and still be in remission, but also looking at the prognosis as well in the back of my mind, saying, this can't be, you can't take me, you can't, I cannot be over, you know what I mean? Like, and that's just the real of it. So the acceptance is very hard for me right now. Just every day is another.
Could I ask a question that all of you ladies could speak to? When you're talking about your doctors, your oncologists, how do you think that they have treated you? I know when I go to the doctor sometimes, I'm not a cancer survivor or a cancer patient, but just to go and do my annual physical or whatever, I get the feeling the doctor has 15 minutes for me, and if I don't get through in 15 minutes, the subject is changed and I'm whisked out the door. Did you all feel that in general you got the kind of attention that you needed from your doctors? Did they tell you things over the phone that they really should have come in, told you to come in, let's talk? In general, how do doctors treat you? Do they give you confidence, or are they real downers?
My my oncologist was very encouraging, very hopeful, very motivating, and just always even touching my hand like, you're going to be all right, you're going to beat this. It's a very rare type of cancer that you have, but your prognosis looks very well. We want to tackle it quickly because we don't want it to spread to any parts of your body or organs. And so I had a consultation with my team of doctors, and because my cancer was so rare, I didn't have a support group. I couldn't Google other people that had what I had, and there wasn't a lot of information. I was referred out to another specialist of oncologists, which almost gave me I almost had like a small, I won't say a party, but they gave me a very warm welcoming with their entire team to let me know that they are here for me, and whatever I needed, whatever questions I had, he gave me his cell phone number. Like, I had a very close relationship with my
That's
oncologist.
wonderful.
And
That is great.
and my team that was with me, we all had our. So my goal was to have everyone had a notebook, right? And so everyone will have to ask their own questions. Not everyone. It was about 3 of us, my 2 girlfriends and myself. But we had a situation where I was on so much medication. I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to ask the questions to my doctors. I may miss something.
Yeah.
Here's some of my questions. I took the bull by the horn as well and really tried to have a relationship. I'm a very relationship type of individual. Energy is so important to me. I think that I can probably, as the energy in this room is so great, and to be amongst you women is wonderful, but to not have a doctor or a nurse who is not responsive or kind of short with you wasn't going to be in my favor at all. And I knew that I'm very outspoken. I'm going to probably ask to speak to someone else or get someone else to help me. But that is me. I realize that everyone doesn't have that voice and that thrive to really just be open about how they feel. But to answer your question, yes, my team of oncologists was amazing, and I don't know how I would have been able to get through this without them.
My doctor was great too, but he gave me a PowerPoint.
He did?
Yeah, but explaining the whole diagnosis and pictures, and he was great. But when I would go in for my appointments, he was funny because he'll say, he'll tell me something that wasn't good, but he'll try to, smile, and he'll just go, like, I have nothing else for you, but I hear you, Whatever my concern was, he was like, I hear you, but, it's nothing I can do. I hear you, but he was great. I mean, I knew what to expect. He was that type of doctor.
One of the things that I wanted to ask, and this has to do with one young lady that's sitting here. How did your significant other respond to the possibility of a mastectomy?
Well, I can say from my husband's point of view was, you don't need it. Don't have reconstruction. I was going to have reconstruction after I had the mess. I started out with a lumpectomy, and when the lab work came back, found out I had an aggressive type of breast cancer. So it was recommended that I go in and have a mastectomy, which I did. And I was going to have reconstruction done at the same time. My husband talked me out of it. He said, no. He says, that's too much to take on. And that part was true. He says, you don't need it. You're fine. You're good. So I went many years wearing a prosthesis. And in the summertime, with the perspiration and the itching, it drove me crazy. And one thing, every time you look in the mirror at your body, it reminds you are a breast cancer survivor, that you don't seem like you're whole. But he was fine with it, but I wasn't fine. So finally, 12 years later, I decided I can't do it anymore. This itching and that you feel a little lump-sided, So I went and I had reconstructive, and they pulled from my stomach and pulled up and made a breast. And I said, well, this is a good time because I've gone past my 5 years. I'm good. And 2014, after that, because I had that surgery done in about 2004 maybe. 2014, I'm diagnosed again with breast cancer. A different breast cancer. It wasn't a reoccurrence, which was a blessing. And it was in the other breast. And I said, I went through all that, and now I've got to go through it again. So I chose a different way. Instead of pulling everything from my stomach up, I went and I had a cellular the implant. And that was a lot easier than having where they tunnel and bring your own skin up. So answering your question, my husband was fine either way. And I haven't gone further. I haven't had the nipples put on. And I'm waiting to finish. And this prescription, I'll be finished with my oral cancer medication. It was 2014, and was a 5-year thing. And this is 2019, and I'm on my last prescription for my oral cancer.
I was diagnosed in 2014, December. And I had a double mastectomy myself. And so here's the thing. I was promised new boobs. And I was excited about getting new boobs. But what they didn't tell me is that when I went in to see the plastic surgeon, because I had a history of smoking, my tissue was ruined in my breast area. And so I was unable to get implants. But they were still willing to do the same surgery that you did, which is a 9-hour surgery. And they go around all your major organs. And I was like, I still have the opportunity to do it, but I've had 5 surgeries due to breast cancer. And the last one, they almost didn't wake me up. And so I was like, do you want to die getting boobs? You know? Is that what the story you want to tell? But it's been a struggle not having them, because I didn't think my breast defined me, but other people make a bigger deal about it than I do. So even my family members, they're like, my son will be like, you want to go get some fake, the fake ones? And I have family members that'll be like, why don't you just get the prosthesis and, put them in? But I didn't have a problem with it at first. But as you go out here afterwards, after the surgery, and you're dealing with different people and society, I became very self-conscious of it. And I kind of went within myself and started hiding. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going out, and, I don't want people to see me. But I just never thought it was such a big deal. Until now, now, I'm almost 5 years without them. And, I'm kind of really thinking about getting them. But am I getting them for me or everybody else?
And that surgery, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very honest with you. When they tunnel and they bring those muscles and all that up, like you say, that's a 9 to 12-hour surgery.
Yeah, and the thing about that, too, is that it's not just they bringing it up. You just go to the doctors and you have the surgery, they bringing it up. Well, you have to have your skin stretched before you can get these implants.
Put the spaces in.
Yes, and so they pump it up a little bit one week, then they pump it up a little bit the next week until it gets to a point where they can put some implants in it. So that's a lot of work and a lot of pain for boobs.
And
but
you
guess
cannot
what?
walk.
You're the one who
And guess who's thinking about doing it? Me. And is it for me?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's why the second time around, I had the implant put in, because that surgery is no joke. It took me 9 weeks. I'd lay in a recliner and I'd have to sit up, and then I got to the point where I tried to walk around the house. Then I got to the point I said, I'm going to go down the steps, I'm going to walk down to my neighbor's house and back. And I come back and get back in that recliner and rest, because it's about 2 years before you really don't feel the discomfort in your stomach area.
Yeah.
It's very serious.
Well, I haven't had a man since 2014. Since I haven't. But is it because I'm afraid to get out here in a relationship? to be so vulnerable in front of somebody with, or the rejection, I'm struggling with that. What if I'm rejected? What if they don't like me? I don't have breasts, and then I struggle with clothes, what to put on. At one point I had my shirt turned backwards because, you didn't want to show the cleavage and the scars, and it's just so much more than chemo. Cancer is just so much more than chemo, radiation, and surgery.
And how you
And I
see
think part of treatment should be psychological, the mental. We need to talk about getting to the mental part of you losing things. And that's what's important to me. That's my part of the journey that I think that they need to really focus on. Because even the fear alone of reoccurrence is crazy. No matter how many years how many years you've been out of it.
That
That's
goes
right.
back to us talking earlier about does your body or losing part of your body define who you are? How does that change you? I'm going to be honest, I have a whole wardrobe closet full of bras that I have never put on. I spent so much money buying underwear, to try to make myself feel whole again. And I realized that would never happen, but I think the pain and the shrinkage of tissue, the lymphedema that you experience behind radiation is so devastating that you want to try to do something to make yourself feel pretty, to if you were enticed into a relationship, that that was, you do everything to overlook this flaw, and irrespective of the fact that you have tried your darndest to get mentally past the fact that there's something missing. It takes a whole lot of women to say, hey, this is who I am right now, and I finally started shoving that underwear that I was buying into that wardrobe and drawer and closed those doors around it because, but it took me a while. It took me, thousands of dollars, to come to the fact that, this is not the answer. The answer is within. The answer also comes from my faith, that I am going to be able to survive this. And even if I have a reoccurrence or whatever, I'm going to be able to face it at that time, being the best person that I can with the best guidance that I have, from above.
Ladies,
Yes.
we're going to start closing down, but there is one more thing that Elaine wants to ask. Elaine.
Freddie, we know your mantra. Okay. You might have cancer, but cancer does not have you. And Juliet, I know your story. Share with us how you keep uplifted, and then I would like for the other ladies to give theirs as well.
I would say that with my journey, I shared a little bit about my story before with Ida, and that was that being adopted, losing my children, losing my place and everything, I still just always knew that I was blessed. I walked around sick as a dog for a long time, and I knew something was seriously wrong with me, and I kept going. It's my faith that makes me stand still and stand strong and know that I'm not in this by myself. I have sisters and aunts and people who I don't even know who are facing the same journey. I look at children who have done absolutely nothing and just be born with a disease. And I say to myself, at the end of the day, what do I want my life to mean if all of this ends?
And I have to say that the strongest thing for me to do is be there for other people, to speak to other people, to lend a hand to other people, to come to people's rescue. When you're in that mindset like, I'm gonna die, or is this gonna kill me, or is this gonna come back, or what have you, I'm the person who says, no, we got this. We're gonna fight this no matter what, tooth and nail. And I stand on the promises of God that He works miracles. He is a God of miracles. He's a God of deliverance. You understand? And no matter what you walk through, your faith has to stand strong in who He is and whose you are. You understand? I'm about my Father's business.
Yeah.
And when I say cancer doesn't have to be ugly, I mean that thing. Yeah, so
Yes,
it doesn't.
I agree with you. I know I've looked at it. It's made me take a good look at myself.
Yeah.
Being a 2-time cancer survivor and a lung cancer survivor. 2016 is when I was diagnosed with lung cancer. So I'm still on the journey with that.
Were you a smoker?
For a short period of time when I was young. When I was young, I was. I don't know whether that had anything to do with it. As interesting as it is, my husband prior to that was diagnosed with cancer, with lung cancer, 2007. And I made me think we worked for the same organization, living in the same house. So, you don't know whether it's the air that you breathe as well, whether that we lived in the same areas. I don't know. But it's also made me realize that it's important for me to minister to other women, to help them. Some women don't even have the doctors that we've been blessed to have. We were listening to all of us. We had good health care. We had good doctors that cared about us. There are a lot of women that don't have that. And I was blessed to be able to help some of those women and take them to some good doctors to get them on the right track. And this is what the Lord has put me here for, to do and to talk to people. Sometimes you don't even realize, sometimes you can be on the train or standing next to someone and you see them with a certain look on your face and you start a little conversation, and out of that you hear about their journey with cancer or how they're lost because of not having proper medical or not being misdiagnosed. And sometimes you can just lend a hand and take them to a decent doctor, or to be able to talk to them and give them some information. And that has brought me a lot of comfort. I find that being able to spend quality time with the people I love and really quality time and doing things with my granddaughter, with my great-grandkids, I want them to remember me. And remember me in a positive way. Don't remember me as a cancer survivor. Remember all the fun and the different things and the guidance that I gave them, And I know the Lord will see me through. No matter what it is or where it is, He tells me to live each and every day. Right. You open up your eyes and you say, oh, the legs are working and the hands working. You're feeling pretty good. Jump up, girl.
Get on up.
Get up, and do. Because there are days that we don't feel that. I mean, let's not fool anybody. There are days we lay there and we're not feeling good. And you know what? Those days are okay to lay there and take care of you. And rest. Yeah. And that's been what I realized. And it's come in front of me to realize these are the things. It's not things. It's the people that you touch that are important while you're here.
That is your legacy.
That's my legacy.
That is your legacy.
I've been inspired to get out more and talk about my story. I promised God that if you save me, I'm going to preach the gospel, and I'm not going to just talk about all the things I've done. I'm going to talk about how you healed me and how you are real, and how if you took care of me and keep me looking glammed and everything else, that you could do it for the person that's sitting next to me who is broken inside. Because all of this is just, you know, this is makeup and hair, but inside is really the true person. And so I have learned to listen, you know, and be a true sister friend, not just someone who yells it out. I'm gonna pray for you. I actually write your name down and ask what is going on with you, as much as information as I can get, and I actually say a prayer for you. Not just, oh, I'm gonna pray for you, sister. You know, no, I'm gonna really pray because somebody was praying for me, and someone. I believe that God listened, and He is continuously watching me, and I need to fulfill my promise, and that is to share, be a part of wonderful women as yourself, and continue to educate more so than anything, and whatever resources that I can provide and give, I want to be able to give that and share that. If people see me as a black woman, look at me as a brown woman and say, wow, she has it and this is what she looks like, but what am I going to look like when I'm going through it? I have pictures to show you. I didn't look like this every day. I have, you know, and my my intimacy and things that I've dealt with. I mean, the stories, we could be here for hours, right? Because we talked about the intimacy and we talked about our significant others. There's so much that goes with that. And it's good to have women and partnerships and friends and people that we can share our stories with, so that you know you're not alone in this. And everybody's story is powerful. And so sharing is, I think, the biggest part of all of this, not holding it in and telling those deep, intimate things that people think that you haven't gone through. I haven't, this is my 3rd year of being cancer-free of sarcoma cancer. For 1 year, I did not walk. I had a walker. You know, I had a cane after that. I mean, so some people met me when I only had a walker. And they were like, oh my God, you're walking now. I'm like, I've always walked, you know. And so, but you know, people see you in different phases. So, you know, I meet people now, and so I listen more, and I'm here to help.
As we get ready to close down, I just wanted to say to you, you have inspired me. And I look at my friends over here as we've listened and heard you tell your story. And one of the things that came to my mind was that the promise that God made to you. And that was, He promised never to leave you nor forsake you. And that He would be with you always, even until the end. In the meantime, everything that you have gone through is for a reason. And if that reason is no more than to prove that when you get cancer, you can still have a great life. That's right. Miss Daphne over here just goes up and down the road across the country. No matter what happens, she has a smile on her face. Miss Freddie never stops working, never stops giving. And it reminds me of something that one of our ministers used to say, and that was, there are 3 questions that you should ponder all the time. Who are you? And you ask that question, who am I? And then when you can answer that you are God's child, that's the evolution of maturity. That's right. The second question is, what is my purpose? Maybe you are to have gone through this just to prove that God still works miracles in your life. And although you have gone through so much, there is a lesson in there that you're going to teach to someone else. And finally, what is your relationship to your fellow woman or man? What is your relationship? And I think today is the beginning of you sharing what your relationship is to your fellow woman, man, and God. Because men can get cancer too. Men can have breast cancer as well. So if you can inspire them, if you can motivate them to be conscious of that, and if you can educate them by having them to know that they could get it, they can study up on it, they can be aware, they can start a conversation, they can help somebody else, then maybe that's your purpose. I want to thank all of you for coming. Anybody else got any questions, final pressing questions? Well, then we can cut this off.